Yeah, man. The pod gods are getting fancy. We got a countdown now. It's Primetime, Poulton. With me, my tag team partner, the main
Oh,
event, Phil McNulty. Phil, what's going
shoot.
on?
Almost had it. Not much, not much. I am ready. Look, I'm in my hipster gear, got my art knit hat on, got my hoodie ready to rock and roll, passing the praxis. I am all good on everything.
Awesome, man. I've been live streaming a lot this week. We talked about it before we went live, but Tuesday night was the ending of the U.S. Assassin Indiegogo campaign. Me, my partner, Mike McMahon, we live streamed from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. because 3 a.m. was the exact time the campaign ended. We had our cover artist for book one, Mark Yoon, join us, and our buddy, part of the Best Friend show, which is coming back, Sean Aaron. He joined us too. It was a lot of fun, man. It was rough though. 5 hours live streaming, especially I had to get up 2.5 hours later to work. It was worth it though. We raised an additional $1,000 for the book for the pre-orders, and the Indiegogo campaign ended, but we're still in demand. So if you missed out on the book, you can go to Indiegogo. I think the link's in the description, and you can still purchase it, but it won't be available much longer because I think we're going to the printer next week. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Think about it. Over $1,000 for 5 hours work. Can't beat it.
Yeah, no. And, if you're not familiar with U.S. Assassin, I'm going to play the trailer for you right now.
U.S. Assassin returns in an all-new 50-page blood-soaked graphic novel written by Mark Poulton, co-creator of Graveyard Shift, featuring artwork by rising superstar Mike McMahon. New villains unite to take on Joe Knight in a story inspired by the Raid and Bruce Lee's Game of Death. Plus, learn the secrets of Project U.S. Assassin. Who is the mysterious Sensei Steel? All this in a book one reprint featuring a stunning cover by Mark Yoon. U.S. Assassin.
Now we're going to take a quick look at the campaign page. Let me bring it up. No, not like that. There we go. And I'm going to just focus on the featured tier. If you didn't back it, this is the place to go. $75. It gets you the book one reprint, book two, and a sketch from Mike McMahon. You can't beat the value there. It gives you everything you need for the U.S. Assassin story and gives you a piece of original artwork. So make sure you check out Indiegogo if you haven't backed the campaign yet. Like I said, we're going to print real soon. I'm going to probably send the files off next week. I'm hoping to have the books back by the end of November to get them to you by Christmas time. So,
as Billy Squire said, Christmas is the time to say I love you. Oh no,
absolutely.
no,
and
nothing says I love you more.
Better way to say I love you than with U.S. Assassin. So, a lot of wrestling this week. Impact. We're going to cover Impact Wrestling, AEW, and I'll start it off. Oh,
hold on. Yeah. I love the Primetime shades on our top banner. I just know
our little logo up in the corner.
Oh, I love it. It's awesome.
That is courtesy of Mark Yoon, and he's working on a couple other surprises for La Pod Gods. So
sweet, I'm down.
Yeah.
For it.
So Impact Wrestling, it kicked off with a recap of Who Shot Johnny Bravo, and Tommy Dreamer is on the case, complete with Sherlock Holmes jacket and hat. Thank God he has the hat because his hair looks terrible. It worked when he had his face painted like Animal, but now that his tribute's over and he's back to without wearing the face paint, he looks ridiculous with that mohawk.
I think the reason why he's dressed like Sherlock Holmes is because he probably woke up that next morning and said, "What the hell did I do?"
Yeah, it's a bad look for him without the face paint. So he's on the case. He's narrowed it down to 10 suspects, and throughout the episode, he he talks to different wrestlers. Good news is Johnny Bravo's still alive. He didn't die. So
he's in a medically induced coma.
Yeah. So first match up, it's for the Women's Impact Championship. Su Yung defends against Deonna Purrazzo. This was a good match. I love the Undead Bride, but I guess breaking news: Kylie Rae. If you want to handle the news part.
Breaking news: Kylie Rae all of a sudden just retired from professional wrestling. I hope she gets. Here at the Pod Gods, let's hope she gets the help she needs, because it sounds like, this is not the first time she basically retired out of nowhere. She retired when AEW had her. She was supposed to be the cornerstone of AEW, and then she left, got herself mentally healthy, back physically healthy, and she won with Impact. And one of my favorite performers to watch is Smiley Kylie Rae. I've said it since we started this podcast. It's just, unfortunate. Hopefully she finds what truly makes her happy. Maybe it's not for everybody, but I really don't, I wish her the best. And I think that means I have a move to make, unfortunately.
If I don't respond, or if I talk over you, it's because you're breaking up every now and then. So just in case anyone's watching and they're like wondering what's going on, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. But Su Yung won the match. Deonna Purrazzo won the match with disqualification. Su Yung, she's crazy, she's nuts, and she just went off and started hitting everyone with chairs, and the match got thrown out. Deonna Purrazzo wins. I don't think this is the end of their storyline, especially now that Deonna has this, basically, I think they wanted to get Smart Mark Sterling from AEW and Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, but he's too big of a star for him. So they got this wannabe lawyer, and he's handling Deonna Purrazzo's affairs now.
Nothing takes me out of the storyline or Impact Wrestling. No, nothing takes me more out of Impact Wrestling than this storyline. I know that they're trying to make it on the fly because Kylie Rae retired out of nowhere, but Su Yung doesn't do anything for me, whether she's Susie, Su Yung, Sue what now, Sue whatever. I don't buy it. I think it's bringing Deonna Purrazzo down. I don't understand why you take it off of Jordynne Grace, who's now floundering and God knows what she's doing when she could have held on to the title more. I'm just totally confused. I understand they were going one way, but if anything, you just let Deonna Purrazzo have a long run. Don't just hand it off because she was supposed to lose it that night anyway. Doesn't make sense in my eyes.
Yeah. Next up, we get my least favorite person in Impact Wrestling, Scott D'Amore. He's meeting with Heath and Rhino. They're trying to cover up Heath's injury, and Scott D'Amore, he knows about it. So he tells Heath the contract's going to be waiting for him once he's healthy. So Heath's still without a contract, still needs to feed his family. So I'm sure the next couple months are just going to be filled with Rhino and Heath doing some skits backstage, trying to make money for Heath.
There's so much Scott D'Amore on this episode. I didn't know. It felt very Stephanie McMahonish to me. Why is he in everything?
Yeah, no, he's he's involved in the Rich Swann, Eric Young stuff. He's involved in the Deonna Purrazzo stuff. He's involved in the Heath stuff. He's everywhere, man. He's he must love seeing himself on TV.
This is a weird episode of Impact for me. I don't know if it's because the last episode of Impact was phenomenal, that this episode just didn't click right for me. It was kind of a struggle to sit through. One of the very rare times I would say Impact 2 hours felt long.
Yeah, and the next match doesn't help us. It's two people involved in a division we don't give a damn about right now. Chris Bay versus Trey Miguel. Chris Bay gets the win, and it seems like he may be out of the X division based on a skit later in the program. But he gets the win, which I found surprising because Trey was Trey seemed like the one guy in this loser X division that they protected.
And I think it's because he was in the main event of Slammiversary. He could have been a wild card to win the title, and nothing has happened. Like he's floundering. I mean, I don't think we know my thoughts on Trey Miguel and the whole Rascals. Chris Bay didn't impress me. Willie Mack impressed me. The whole division is run with losers, and the more I know, we're going to get into that Rohit segment. But just if I could touch on that right now, they always say the man makes the championship doesn't make the man. And man, is Rohit just killing this X division. It's got no heat whatsoever. It's just a belt that I couldn't care less about. So
yeah. So Chris Bay gets the win. We move on to the Madison Rain Johnny Swinger talk show, and they bring in Jordan Grace and Neil Dashwood, and Madison's bringing up how they both don't have partners, and Jordan Grace seems like she's about to ask Tennille Dashwood to be our partner, and Tennille is like, at first you think that she's 100% on board, but she's thinking of someone else as her partner. She wants Madison Rain as her partner. Madison Rain is very flattered, and she accepts, and Caleb with a K is taking pictures of him. He tells Jordan Grace to get out of the picture. She storms off. I thought this was a funny segment. Especially love Swinger trying to get in the picture at the end.
The 2-for-1 swing man.
Yeah. Swinger's awesome, man.
I'll tell you what. I don't care if this gets me 0 points forever. I'm dropping Kylie Ray and I'm picking up Johnny Swinger. I love me some swing man.
Now there's someone that they should just throw into the X division just because he's so entertaining.
Do you know the match between him and Cody Deaner was so entertaining and it was so good, and it made me wonder why those two, if you're gonna have what I consider to be jokes in the X division anyway, why not have two actually good comedian wrestlers who told a fantastic story? Like, I still am thinking about what's in Johnny Swinger's fanny pack that could knock him out. Bring that, maybe make it a Wrestle House title, like make it something more important, because it's really just a piece of plastic or metal that I really couldn't care about.
Yeah. So after that segment, we get Chris Sabin. He's thrown out a challenge to Triple XL. He wants AC Romero. So I think they're scheduled for next week. And then we get a Scott D'Amore segment. Scott D'Amore, Rohit Raju backstage, telling him he has to defend against TJP. And then we get the TJP Rohit in-ring segment. And this is brutal. I actually thought Rohit was great on the mic, but it made TJP look like a complete, clown. It did him no favors. When Rohit's running him down, TJP like almost makes you feel like, yeah, he agrees with everything Rohit Raju's saying, and he just walks off. But then when you think he's going to show a little fire and fight back, he throws coffee in Rohit's face. Like, what a punk.
I don't get this. Are we supposed to like TJP? Are we supposed to like Rohit? Is this some sort of double turn? Because I don't care. And it's funny, I was thinking about this segment for a couple minutes afterwards, and I thought to myself, well, why do I care? Nothing about this segment, nothing about these wrestlers make me care. Jordan Grace should, you know what? I feel like my new slogan should be Jordan Grace should have won, because I feel like I'm saying it every week. Jordan Grace should have won, enter the X Division Championship. Make it entertaining. Make her have to wrestle Caleb with a K, and that brings into that storyline, just something, because to me, again, for a show that started off so slow, with this barrister and Scott D'Amore and more Scott D'Amore and Su Yung, who Deonna Purrazzo and her didn't have the best match. It was okay. Like right now, and then I checked the time. It's only like 38 minutes into the show, and I said, "Oh, it's going to be a long one."
Yeah. So that segment did TJP no favors. We get a match next: Doc Gallows versus Ethan Page. Gallows is with Carl Anderson, who's been in the news a bit. Not good news. Yeah, this is the type of stuff you don't want to see. For a guy who's always talking about his hot Asian wife, apparently he's cheated on his hot Asian wife, and she called him out on social media. Some people are saying it's all a stunt, and that he cheated on Mario Kart or something like that. But no, I'm pretty sure he cheated on his wife.
The text messages that she had the receipts. She had the receipts, and when you call someone out and you say, "Oh, I love my wife," and you're like, "Oh yeah, do you call your wife a slut?" And she had the receipt right there on the text. Ooh.
Yeah.
But did you notice when he came out, he did not have that fire? Did you notice he was kind of just like holding the beer? Like you could just tell he wasn't even in the right state, and that was very telling.
Yeah. So Doc Gallows gets the pin on Ethan Page. Did you see Ethan Page? He released like a fake commercial on his YouTube channel called Slap Chump, and he just keeps he's trying to sell he's selling his t-shirt Slap Chump, and it's a cartoon. It's a take on the Batman panel where he's slapping Robin across the face, and it's him slapping Doc Gallows across the face. But he did an infomercial type commercial trying to sell you the Slap Chump, and he would just like replay the slap, and he says it gets funnier the more times you play it, and it's true. It really was funny. Ethan Page is just great on his YouTube channel. It's made me love him even more.
When he rolled out of the ring, it was like, I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm collected, right? He's like, I have to grab a towel. He grabs. He is money. He is absolutely money. The best thing he could have ever done was give those titles back to the North, make them part of a bigger storyline. He just outshines everyone he's with, and it's not like he's purposely trying to upstage him. He's just that charismatic. And if you look at his Twitter, like I know both of us do, he loves himself some Rock. It's quite apparent that he studied The Rock and knows when to take his like say, this is the moment I'm going to capture it, and he does it every time he's on television. It's something to really. A lot of wrestlers don't have that today, and it's something why I think both of us have speculated he's AEW bound, and probably so.
Yeah, I think Cody's even like put him over on Twitter saying he's a guy that he has his eye on. Next up is a match we sort of talked about: Cody Deaner versus the Swingman. Swingman gets the victory with the fanny pack. Johnny Swinger is a treasure. Impact really struck gold with Johnny Swinger. Who would think that a guy from 25 years ago not only would look like $1 million, but would be so entertaining. And hats off to Cody Deaner too. Ever since Wrestle House, he's been a fun character.
And it's funny because I think watching WWE for years since I was a kid, and what got me into wrestling, now that I'm kind of fade out, I go back and forth with WWE, but my love for like the independents has always grown. I sort of get used to saying, "Oh, the size guy is the better guy. The size guy is the better guy." And Cousin Jake is not nearly as charismatic as Cody Deaner. Cody Deaner puts on better matches than Cousin Jake. And it's just nice to see that two guys who I don't think they had a lot of plans for make it was only like about 5 minutes, and I was entertained the entire time.
Yeah, I'm a little sad they haven't like touched on the Cousin Jake Su Yung stuff. That was dropped after Wrestle House. I'd like to see what Cousin Jake thinks of the Su Yung the Susie transformation into Su Yung. I mean, I guess we did get a little bit of it in Wrestle House when she went psycho on Jake and Cody, and I think Swinger was with them too at the time. But next up we have Moose Willie Mack segment. This looks like it's leading to Turning Point, which is Impact's next pay-per-view, November, I want to say 14th, but it's coming up in a week or so.
Moose is fantastic. There's nothing to me. He just showed on the mic why he's so good. The presence, he made me want that TNA championship to be the #1 championship. And I think the way he looks, and I think I'm going to touch on this later in the show, especially in the main event. But I was just watching it, and I'm like, one of these things does not look like the other. And it was based on pure presence alone. And you're just like, it's the champion.
Yeah. So speaking of champion Rich Swann, before he's in the main event teaming with Eddie Edwards against Sami Callihan and Eric Young, before the match, he's backstage in his dressing room and Chris Bay drops by and sort of like floats it out there that he wants a title shot. So it seems like Chris Bay moving out of the X division and maybe, sometime soon compete for a world title, but Eddie Edwards interrupts him. They had a segment earlier too where I thought it was real fun. Rich Swann comes in singing Eddie Edwards' theme song, which I think is one of the best theme songs in wrestling. And then this time, Eddie returns the favor. He starts singing his theme song. Rich Swann gets up. They sort of, dance off screen to the theme song. They take on EY and Sami Callihan, which I feel like makes a pretty good team and makes a lot of sense just based on their characters.
I love the ending of the show with the three of them and Josh Matthews going, with these three men together, who knows what they can do. And I actually believe that because all three are fucking lunatics and they're crazy. And I'm not buying Rich Swann as champion. I'm not buying the dancing and the happy-go-luckiness. Like there's, I think, who was it, said that comedy doesn't sell championships. Like you can't buy a champion if they're goofy and fun-loving all the time. Like the Rich Swann with the beard and working out and getting that championship and working towards it, but now doing splits in the middle of the ring like he didn't have like his leg surgically repaired.
Right.
And he's singing and dancing. Eddie Edwards is busting his ass the entire match. He's taking the heat the entire time. He gets in he's putting people in the sharpshooter, and he's like dying over there. And Rich Swann is like, yeah. And I'm just like, no, like you're champion, man. You had Moose right before your segment run down your championship and say, I'm the most prestigious one. Came in with a suit. He came in talking about the history of the TNA championship, why it means so much to him. He put over EC3 saying, this match made me control my narrative. It's why I'm, so you're thinking to yourself, this guy really makes you believe that title. And then you see a guy who's fake playing the guitar on there, and you're just like, I don't get it. I don't get, you need that personality change, especially after the story they gave to you. Just don't revert back to Mr. Song and Dance. It just doesn't work for me. And that match really made me realize that, man, Eric Young did him such a solid. And Eddie Edwards being that transition champion to get to him, come on.
Yeah, so Sami and EY, they get the victory. It's going to be Sami Callihan versus Rich Swann at Turning Point in a couple weeks. One last thing on Eddie Edwards. This week on Twitter, he revealed his new T-shirt designed by me and Dexter Weeks. So look for it soon, I guess, on Pro Wrestling Tees. While we're going to transition it over to AEW, I'm going to go on Twitter, see if I can find it, and I'll pop the image up on screen. But let's start talking about AEW.
So last week I made a erroneous statement saying I may switch back to NXT. Nothing made me eat my words more than this episode of Dynamite. It's a go-home show. If one thing AEW does right, I've sort of panned them the past couple weeks. We both have been really, not too thrilled about their booking decisions and where they're going. But their go-home shows get you hyped up, get you want to drop that $60 for your pay-per-view.
So here we go. Here's the Eddie Edwards image. It's based off a Masawa t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan. Eddie sent me a picture of the shirt that he has in his collection. And he said, hey, do you think you could do something like that for me? And I was like, sure. So I drew it. I sent it over to Dexter Weeks. He inked and colored it. And he did the text on it. And I sent it over to Eddie. And he was like, oh, that's awesome. But could you just put, like Die Hard up at the top? Because I don't know what that says. And I said, it says Die Hard in Japanese. And he was like, perfect. So I'm pretty excited. I got to help him with his shirt and look forward on Pro Wrestling Tees hopefully in like the next week or two.
All right, good stuff. Primetime Poulton, the hardest working man in the biz. So Dynamite kicks off with Jericho getting on commentary, leading to Jake Hager winning his fight, having Santana enter there right with him. Before they comes in MJF and Wardlow, to which leads him saying he doesn't think MJF has the killer instinct. In fact, he thinks he's soft.
That's some gimmick infringement. Big Cass, I'm surprised didn't come out and.
I mean, people were chanting soft, but this led to MJF and Wardlow defeating Sammy Guevara and Ortiz after some Matt Hardy came in and blasted, dressed as Serpentico. Serpentico's mask is the new hide to beat your opponent in.
Yeah, and it's pretty funny that Sammy, I guess, like gave who he thought Serpentico the finger, which is funny because Sammy dressed as Serpentico when he made his return. It turns out to be Matt Hardy. Hardy leaves him laying on the concrete, and it leaves Ortiz alone to tap out. Wardlow looked great in this. He did all even Tony Schiavone pointed out, he did all the heavy lifting.
I was watching this match, and after the match, MJF attacked Jericho, kind of speared him through the thing, and Jericho smiled, checking his teeth, like, yeah, this is what I wanted from him. But man, I thought Wardlow with that F10 was just gonna have him go in. But Wardlow and Sammy put on especially Sammy put on what I thought was almost a career-making match, just on a go-home show. And it was funny to see two heel teams go up, and clearly we were starting to root for the Inner Circle. But really, did you notice a "Let's Go Wardlow" chant as soon as the match started?
Yeah, I mean, we're not the only ones who love Wardlow. He's getting over, man. He's going to be a big star. But yeah, Sammy Guevara was awesome. The commentators were putting him over big time, saying he was having the match of his career.
So next up, we had a sit-down interview with Tony Schiavone and Kenny Omega. What were your thoughts?
It wasn't bad. Kenny's definitely healing it up. I thought I liked just for like story-wise purpose, I liked JR's interview with Hangman later, only because I thought like JR called Hangman out and basically told him that he looks nervous, but this was perfectly fine. Kenny healing it up. I think we're pretty sure he's going to be the heel.
I think from both these segments, we'll talk about both of them right now. I think both these segments, Tony Schiavone, I like when he even said, I think Kenny Omega is trying to find out who Kenny Omega is. I thought that was a really nice line to say to him, because I think that is Kenny's story. He's trying to figure out who he is. Is he the best bout machine? Is he the cleaner? Is he this guy who put over everybody when the company started? Who is Kenny Omega? And I think this match will bring a new face to him. I don't think it's going to be any of those guys. I think it is going to be some new evolution of the Kenny Omega character, whether that means he's got to put Hangman down, right then and there with a couple V triggers. I'm so stoked for this match. And I love the Hangman. Yeah, I'm scared. I think you're scared. It was, as you said, I think I preferred the JR one more, but I think both of them were top-notch hype packages.
Yeah, I thought, just with JR's personality since AEW started, how he's like surly and he doesn't really give an F about anything. So he wasn't afraid to call Hangman out, and I thought it really worked with this segment.
So after that interview session, we had Trent versus Miro. It was probably Miro's best match since coming to AEW. Trent is rocking in the ring. We had some shenanigans with Kip Sabian and Chucky T battling throughout the match. We had your girl Penelope Ford slapping the glasses off Orange, to which the Dark Order came out and beat up Orange because he's got that pape match against Johnny Silver. But what are your thoughts?
Miro looked fantastic. It's a shame this wasn't his debut match. I mean, it was his singles debut, and it couldn't have been any better. He looked amazing, put on a great show. The Johnny Silver run-in. Johnny Silver is an unstoppable force right now. He is so over, and with Brody Lee out, he has become like the focal point of the Dark Order. I love that the other members, with the exception of Uno and Grayson, they all follow Johnny Silver around.
This to me was the segment of the night on Dynamite. There's a lot of good storytelling stuff, but this had me the most entertained. Was it the best part of the night? Probably not. Was it my favorite part? Yes. I just enjoy everything about this. Is absolutely right. This should have been Miro's debut. This is how they should have introduced him. I love before the match, he said that you have no manners because your mom taught you no manners. And then after he beats him, he gets the mic and he's like, you have no manners, but don't worry, Trent, it's not your fault. It's your mother's. And I'm just like, Miro was spitting hot fire before the match, during the match, and after the match. This is why they signed this guy.
Yeah.
Don't put him with Kip's only bringing him down. But I think as we learn later in the show, they just are so stacked with talent.
Yeah, so earlier today I was listening to the AEW podcast with Tony Schiavone, Aubrey Edwards. They had Tony Khan on, and they were doing a preview of the upcoming pay-per-view. And he was talking about Orange Cassidy and Johnny Silver, but mainly about Johnny Silver for their match, saying they were going over how, the rise of Johnny Silver and how over he is. And Tony Khan said, "Do you know how this all happened?" And they were like, "No." And he says, I watched Being the Elite, and I was almost offended that this guy had so much personality but wasn't showing it on TV. So I called him into the office and told him I was very disappointed in him. And he said Johnny Silver started sweating. And, he told him, he goes, "You have so much personality. Let's start seeing it on TV." And that's when he just was unleashed, and he, started getting crazier and crazier on TV. This week's Being the Elite with the Family Feud segment, when they're just going down the line of the Dark Order, and he's at the end dancing. He is just hilarious.
I'm glad Tony Khan's watching Being the Elite. He should take some tips from there and add even more onto it, because just taking Johnny Silver's been a revelation. I think it's, I go around like when I'm hungry now and I go, "Johnny Hungry." And my girlfriend's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it."
Did you listen to Miro? He was on Talk Is Jericho.
No, not yet. I haven't got a chance to listen to it. I was, I had a lot of stuff for work to do today, so I had to get all caught up on that.
Very interesting. He was just talking about his burial at WWE, and he said the moment he knew he was getting fired was his last match on Raw. They had him teaming up with Humberto Carrillo. and they went up against Bobby Lashley and Angel Garza, and they had Miro take the pinfall, and they had Garza pin him, which he said his program wasn't even with Garza, so he knew like he was getting buried even more. And then Garza was supposed to leave the ring, and instead he just sort of stood over and gloated. He saw the referee whisper in Garza's ear to like stand over him and gloat, and he goes, "Oh, they're trying to bury me." So he said he popped up and he started pummeling Garza, and Garza left the ring. And when he went backstage, he said Vince pulled him inside and said, "I love it. You're getting a bonus. They tried to bury you out there." And Miro said, "They tried to bury me. They got orders from." There's only one person who could have given the orders. So it just seems crazy. Everything that he came from. So I'm happy to see him, getting a proper build, and he looked awesome this week.
So next up, we had the Young Bucks versus Private Party, in which some breaking news: Matt Jackson is dealing with a legit knee injury. He's got 2 partially torn ligaments in his knee. That happened with that giant match against Butcher and the Blade a couple months ago. Remember when we first were like, these guys should always wrestle in there? Apparently, one of the dives off the top, he apparently strained some of those ligaments in there. So they're hanging on by a thread. So the reason why they worked the leg is because he's legit hurt.
Yeah, I was surprised to even see him wrestle this week. I didn't even play him on my fantasy team. Just with the pay-per-view so close, I thought they would get the rest, but they were out there. It was a great match, good storytelling, especially with the leg. Private Party looked awesome. I actually thought a couple times, they're going to get the win, and the storyline going into the pay-per-view is Young Bucks losing.
We've talked shit about the Young Bucks, whatever turn this is. I think they realized that this heel turn was total bullshit, and I think they've been called out on it. This was the first time they got me behind the Bucks in months since this pseudo heel turn, don't give a crap attitude changed. When you, at the end of it, Excalibur said, "Was it worth it? Was it worth it?" Just 3 days before full gear. Like, Excalibur sold me a ticket. And then when FTR came out and started to almost destroy his knee, and he's holding Nick Jackson back to watch it, this was when I said, this is what they should have been doing with the Bucks all along. And when Hangman came out, it was like, oh, this is great. But again, it's stuff that was built on Being the Elite that led up to this. If you didn't watch Being the Elite, you're just like, oh, why is he coming out? Like that again. That's what they need to do. They need to figure out how they can intertwine some of these stories in from BTE on Dynamite and put that on there, because it just made it so much more impactful, and I was so behind the Bucks.
Yeah, I love that Hangman came out, and then Kenny came out late, and Kenny offered up the fist bump, and Hangman did it and then walked away, and then he was like, "No, I'm not having that," and he turned around and got in Kenny's face. I thought that was a great little touch to that segment.
This is what we praised early on. I think before COVID hit, we praised AEW so much on their storytelling. And I think, and seeing clips of Pac being there, and then the video clip of the story of Kenny and Hangman, and you see him taking the beer from a fan, and then Kenny taking the beer away from Hangman. Like, I think they really missed feeding off of that energy and realizing, what do the fans want? What are we going in this direction? Because the fans want to take us there. I think they kind of lost that, and I feel like this is the first time in a long time that they sort of remembered, oh shit, we do tell good stories. Let's actually put one on there.
Yeah, and this Kenny Hangman story, this is like, I guess, started back in sometime in what? When did they become a team? Almost a year ago?
Yeah, almost a year. Yeah, when Moxley, a little after Full Gear, because he lost to Moxley in Full Gear last year. I was there at that pay-per-view rooting hard for Kenny. And like, so he lost that match against Moxley, and then he entered the tag team division, and him and Hangman took it on from there.
Yeah, and the whole point they were put together was to break them up. So yeah, this is great long form storytelling.
So not without his bumps, but next segment was, oh my goodness, we say it every week, and we're not going to say it now. Does Eddie Kingston not know how to sell a match, man?
Yeah, no, he's awesome, man. Best talker in the business.
He brought something out of Moxley too. I sat at your mom's table. Oh my god, I just was just like it made me want to root for both of these guys. And that's a lot when we talk about Moxley, because I never want to root for Moxley.
Yeah, no, that one line Moxley had saying that the one thing that makes him sick to his stomach is knowing that Kingston's not going to be able to keep his promise to his mom. And I was like, oh, damn.
Oh, my goodness. Way to go, Eddie Kingston. This came out of nothing after I'm pretty sure he was headed towards some sort of rivalry with Archer to maybe make Lance Archer a babyface because he was getting those sort of reactions. But whatever happened, best thing that ever happened to him was getting this feud with Moxley, because it's elevated both of their status.
Yeah, he's a perfect example of you got to take your shot. He called out Cody on Twitter when Cody first put up that open challenge, and someone at AEW saw it. I don't know if it was Cody or Tony Khan, and they brought him in for a shot, and he has shined ever since they brought him in.
Oh, so good. So next up, we have the not so good. Red Velvet versus Nyla Rose. Red Velvet came out with Brandy Rhodes. Why Brandy Rhodes just puts herself on television? No other way, just because she's Brandy Rhodes. There was a confrontation after this with Sheeta setting up the match for Full Gear. Thoughts?
Can we just stop with Brandy? She's not getting over. The Nightmare Family is not getting over. She was paired with Allie, and then I guess they realized that wasn't working. They put Allie back with Butcher and the Blade, and they were like, well, she still needs someone, so they give her Red Velvet. That let's just drop it, man.
I don't know why she wants. Just have her come out with Cody. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with being, the valet. I mean, it's a position that hasn't been there in a while, but I mean, we know Randy and Elizabeth, like probably the greatest valet pairing of all time. She elevates Cody. Just leave it at that. You don't have to be more than what you are. Sometimes if you know who you are, just be best at that. Because, I mean, and again, every women's match, I'm just saying, just put the title on Baker. Why is she not on my show?
Yeah. Speaking about Brandy, how great was she a couple years ago on Being the Elite when she was like Flip Gordon's best friend and Cody couldn't stand it, and she would accompany Flip to the ring. I mean, she can still wrestle, but I don't think she needs this. There shouldn't really be a Nightmare Family. A Nightmare Family should be blown up, and if Cody really wants to do a Nightmare Family, it needs to be, selective, better selected.
Listen, we're all good with Dustin Rhodes there.
Absolutely.
QT Marshall, get the fuck out of there. Arn Anderson, yeah, we love Arn, right? Brandy Rhodes, yeah, be a valet, but why is it a family? It's nothing.
Yeah.
All right, so next up we have the main event. It is Cody and the Gun Club versus
who are now part of the
Order.
Nightmare Family.
Apparently so. But, I mean, Austin Gunn gets the win.
Yeah. They were really building him up in that match. I was a little shocked. Once they said Gun Club was part of the Nightmare Family, I was like, oh, Dark Order's losing. But when I saw it on paper, I was like, Silver, 10, Colt, they're going to get the win because Gun Club hasn't had any time on Dynamite. I guess they had the moment last week where they cleared the ring, and that's when Cody took an eye to him. But yeah, Cody and the Gun Club get the win. Gun Club's part of the Nightmare family. I don't like it.
Is Mr. Birdie Lee hurt?
I think he was beat up after that dog collar match. He was on the AEW podcast last week, and he was saying, he needed some time off after that dog collar match.
Yeah, because you just feel like the Dark Order needs him back, sooner rather than later. Johnny Silver and Alex Reynolds have been doing such a good job holding fort. I think them coming out, I think it's funny when Brody Lee's not there, they come out and the Dark Order help pick up their other guys, but when he's there, they just don't do it. But it was weird to see Austin Gunn pick up the victory. I can't take him seriously when his poses of his stills, he's like that's his frozen picture when when he's doing the side one, he's like I just can't buy him presence-wise.
He's always the guy at ringside cheering on other wrestlers. He's you don't picture him as a wrestler. He's the guy that's always cheering people on.
But overall, Dynamite, thoroughly enjoyed it. It's always a pleasure to watch. This week there are a lot of really top tier segments, a lot of good furthering the storyline and setting up full gear for Saturday night.
Yeah, it should be a good show. It's a stacked lineup. Can we do a little bit of a fantasy book? We were saying the Nightmare family needs to be blown up. Who would you cast in the Nightmare family?
I would have no Nightmare family. I would turn Dustin heel. And I would say the true nightmare of this family, the true nightmare is this family. This family's a fucking nightmare. I can't deal with my stupid sister-in-law who wants to get her face and everything. I can't deal with this QT guy who is a nobody jobber who I get paired up with because apparently he helped us train some dudes here that get more airtime than I do. I haven't been on TV in weeks. I was force-fed and murdered to the murder hawk. Why? Because Cody couldn't fight his own battles. I would blow it up and just say there is no such thing as a Nightmare family and have Dustin turn on Cody.
There you go. I was gonna suggest some people, but yours is way better. So let's just leave it dead.
How are you? Let me ask you a question. I'm wondering your thoughts. How are you? What would you do to revive AEW's women's division? What would you do? Creatively, whether you're giving people storylines, trying to sign somebody in there. You being the writer that you are, who sell millions of comics and tell great stories overall, what is a writer to do to revive, I guess, like a product?
I would put the belt on Britt Baker and revolve the whole division around her. She does great, but she doesn't really have much of a personality. Even Vicky Guerrero, she has personality. So I wouldn't mind seeing more of Nyla Rose, and she's the bully of the women's division. She's taking advantage of the weaker women. Try to sign Thunder Rosa. They announced that they're bringing in Allison Kaye from Impact. She was who was she on Impact? She was KM's cousin. I know that, but I can't remember her actual name. But anyway, she would be a good addition. I don't know if it's full time. Serena Deeb. I like her. I don't mind seeing more of her. The girl that she wrestled last week, that little shooter woman, she was fantastic. I'd love to see more of her, and I love the gimmick of a woman shooter. Even have her mix it up with Marco Stunt. and show that, she can beat some men. Get
That would
Marco
be
Stunt actually
amazing.
involved in that division.
That would be amazing to have him dress as a woman to try to sneak in and win the title. Now that is some attitude era shit I would sign up to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to dress him up. It would be funny, but like have Nyla Rose pick on him and like destroy him, because we don't find him believable. I mean, he's entertaining, but he's not believable like when he goes up against like, a Wardlow or, basically any wrestler that's, because they're all like twice his size.
It just, to me, there's so much potential and there's so much talent. We almost pulled a TK, Tony Khan, and left off on a great segment. Taz's segment with Team FTW. Ricky Starks is a freaking star, and I love the fact that he says you got Cage, the number one contender, and you got nothing for these guys because of all the politics BS.
Yeah, no, this is another segment. Much like Eddie Kingston, everything Taz says sounds so believable because you can tell he really believes this. Cage and Starks left off the pay-per-view card. Why? They're two of the best talents. There is Cage number one contender. All Ricky Starks does is win, and he's not even ranked. How's this possible? He won again on Dark, didn't he? Yeah,
yes, he did. Get me more points.
He is Mr. AEW Dark. It's a shame he should be wrestling more on Dynamite. And he's great on the mic. Tons of charisma. Cage, just stands in the background, looks intimidating, and that's all he really needs to do. There's no one in the industry that looks like Cage, so he can get by standing back there looking mean and tough.
They have so much talent. They just don't know. I feel like they don't know what to do with it, and I feel like they're just so misguided on some of the talents. Why is the Gun Club on there and not Ricky Starks wrestling? Why is there a build up with Red Velvet, like to just have a face to face? Why is Miro wrestling with Kip Sabian? Like there is just so much you can do, and I feel like they just don't know. They have all the pieces, like they have all the ingredients to bake a cake. They just don't know how to make that perfect cake yet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a good problem to have so much talent. But if you look at AEW Dark, they like do 22 matches a week on Dark. There's been talk that they're going to add a second like real show, not a YouTube show, and I really think they have the talent already that they could do that, and it would be a place for Starks and Cage to get over. I mean, there's plenty more talent that doesn't get properly used. Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus come to mind. They're just a ton of talent. Even like Butcher and Blade, if they weren't, they're crammed on Dynamite, but they're put in there basically to take pinfalls from other tag teams. Start a new show, and they're like they could be the stars of a tag division, especially if they wear those Butcher smocks because they look badass in that.
I guess it's just I think we got spoiled, especially with the Attitude Era and knowing there was SmackDown and Raw, and knowing that if you weren't on Raw one week, you were on SmackDown, and then you were going to be on Raw following that. So it felt like you were on more shows than you really were because you almost pulled like a back-to-back. Like you would get a SmackDown off, but you'd be on Raw, and then the following SmackDown that 1 week. So it kept like there was a more importance to the show, and like just rewatching, you don't realize that Edge and Christian aren't on every week, but they're on SmackDown every other week, and then maybe Raw every other week, and there's just a nice balance of booking talent and storylines, and they need to do more of that with their tag division. I think you have all that talent, you're almost running it to a point where it's like a singles division because you have all these guys, but you don't put them on there. Like like you just said, we know when Butcher and Blade comes out, they're going to eat the pin, right? But when you saw Too Cool, they were beating guys. Head Cheese was beating guys because they were in storylines that involved other tag teams. So it always sort of felt like they were commingling with each other.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Attitude Era. Everyone had a storyline. And in AEW, like Team Taz, their storyline is they have no storyline. They don't have any programs with anyone, even though they're like, on winning streaks and are incredible talents.
Yeah, I mean, we always say Raw is a painful 3 hours. I feel like AEW should be 3 hours, but then again, I think we would get into the sort of factor of it.
Yeah, no, I'd rather just have another 2-hour show instead of 1 3-hour show.
I agree.
So, Phil, where can people find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at AnimatedPhil, on Instagram at AnimatedPhil, and I promise I shout out my students who, please excuse the poor language. I will do better and not do as much. Please don't mention that.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Coney Waves. Make sure you subscribe to Primetime Poulton, and we will see you. We'll see him tomorrow. Best Friend Show.
Yeah, Best Friend Show's return. I'm so hyped to see Sean again. I love the man. I have his artwork hanging up right next to me. I remember we're at a convention, sitting across from each other. Some guy really smelled, and we were just like really dying. And I saw that Gambit, and I'm just like, Sean, is that? And he's like, oh yeah, it's like $20. I'm like, no man, you charge like $40 for that. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna charge $44. I said, all right, here's $40. Because it's probably one of my favorite Gambit pieces, and I have it right up here. So can't wait to see that man tomorrow.
Yeah, so he'll be joining us. I think we're going live at 4:30. So make sure you tune in, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.